Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this THF conversation on manufacturing paths forward. I'm Cynthia Jones. I'm our general manager at the Henry Ford Museum and Ford Rouge Factory Tour, focused on innovation experiences. So I'm really interested in STEM careers and the future of manufacturing, the past of manufacturing, and also kind of just having these deeper conversations, deeper dive into where we're going as a country and how we're going to get there. And today it's my great pleasure to welcome an incredible panel of folks that have technical careers and technical backgrounds and are deeply engaged in the world of manufacturing. Here in Michigan, this is our 6th year celebrating Manufacturing Day. It's celebrated all over the country, all over the world, really focusing in on the fact that we're seeking to fill about 4.5 million high-tech, high-skilled manufacturing jobs in the coming years, and encouraging folks to think about the challenges that folks in manufacturing are addressing that make our world better and make the future better for all of us. So welcome to this conversation. Our goal today is to have about a 25-minute or so panel discussion with folks, and then also be following up with that, looking at the chat and looking at questions as they come in, and we'll be asking our panelists your questions as well today. So welcome, and with that, I'm going to start to welcome our panel and have them give just brief introductions of themselves so you can get to know them. And we're going to start with Scott French. He's our Vice President of Operational Excellence at Lear. Scott, if you'd like to give a quick introduction of yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, and thanks to our panelists. Scott French, been with Lear 22 years, all in plant operations, manufacturing positions. Started on the plant floor as a superintendent, ran a plant, worked all around the world. I worked in Europe for 6 years. I worked in Asia for 6 years, and currently came back to corporate to work for our CEO on manufacturing quality, logistics, purchasing, et cetera. So been in this job for about a year, and really excited to be a part of this exercise. So thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we'll turn now to SME. Jeannine, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Thanks, Cynthia. My name is Jeannine Kunz, and I am the Vice President of Tooling U-SME. And essentially that is the learning and development arm of the SME organization, which is a nonprofit dedicated to the advancement of manufacturing. So it's kind of what we live and breathe as a nonprofit organization. We worry about the health and competitiveness of the manufacturing industry. And we go about serving our mission in 2 different ways. One is all about showcasing technology and all the great things that advance inside this wonderful industry. We want to bring it forward to manufacturers, to educators, students, to ensure that they're aware of maybe new equipment, new processes, new materials, technology, et cetera, that can help them be more productive, profitable, innovative in their manufacturing environment. And the other side of what we do, Cynthia, is the part I oversee, which is the people side. So we see manufacturing advances through adoption of new technologies, as I mentioned, but also people. And so the area I oversee, and been with the organization for 20 years, feel very lucky to say that. And what we do is we help manufacturers from the small to mid-sized manufacturers to the largest in the world, and anything related to people, from production to engineering, to open up new plants, retiring workforce, onboarding, and then inside of schools. As you can imagine, schools have really been under a lot of pressure of change. And so there's quite a bit we do with them in helping with education, such as online learning and things like that. And thank you for having us today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn to Jim Quick, who I know is inside a plant that's in progress of being turned over for the future. So Jim, could you give us a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the opportunity, and happy Manufacturing Day to everybody out there. I'm Jim Quick. I'm the plant director for General Motors Detroit Hamtramck Assembly. I've had the pleasure of working for GM for 26 years, and mostly in operations. I've worked in manufacturing engineering and manufacturing strategy planning I actually started my career with General Motors on the assembly line as a representative employee. In case you're wondering, I am smiling under my mask. It's hard to tell, but thanks for putting up with the mask today, and then jackhammering going on in the background.
That's
My
awesome.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for overcoming the many challenges that it takes to be here today with us. I appreciate it. And finally on our panel, Adrian Price, if you'd like to give us an introduction.
Yeah, good afternoon, Cynthia, and happy Manufacturing Day to everybody. I've had the pleasure of working in manufacturing for over 30 years, starting out my career over in England, where I was born, and working in production facilities over there before moving over to the US back in 2000. And I've had the opportunity to work in plants and with engineering teams all over the world, including spending some time most recently in Asia Pacific with our team there, located in Shanghai in China, but working all over Asia Pacific in our facilities. And my current role, I'm the Director of Core Engineering, Global Core Engineering for automotive manufacturing. And my team basically facilitizes all of our new production facilities around the world. And most recently, I've also been the team leader for manufacturing for our Apollo effort, where we've been focused on making PPE to protect our frontline defenders for COVID-19. So another opportunity to showcase our manufacturing and engineering expertise.
That's marvelous. And I think actually, Adrian, we're going to stay with you on that topic, on Project Apollo. And I know for all of us, for everyone participating today, and for all the folks that are online with us today, this pandemic has shifted our world, and it certainly created some challenges, some ways for folks to step up personally and professionally. And, I would love to hear more about Project Apollo and really, how did Ford come to the table? What was the challenge you wanted to solve? How well did you do? Because I have some stats that I think you did pretty gosh darn well on that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, no, I think a challenging time for all of us across the industry and around the world, and kind of a new experience and a new enemy to battle and fight. And for us as a company, I think in times of need, we've always wanted to step up and see what we could do to support. And this crisis was no different. We actually started out as we began to shut down all of our facilities around the world and really not knowing what was going to happen, and thinking, how could we use our talents and capabilities for the greater good? And we actually started out by making face shields and figuring out how we could do that using an open source design and how we could speed that process up. I think I actually got a call from my global vice president on the Friday night, and by Monday morning we were in production making face shields like this one to protect our frontline defenders. And currently we've made over 22 million of those and distributed them throughout the US and also in other countries around the world. And then simultaneously we started to think about masks similar to the one that Jim's wearing there, and how we could make those available both for frontline defenders, but also for our own employees, thinking about how we were going to keep them safe as we came out of this crisis. And we wanted, obviously, critically, to get our production facilities up and running. And then more complex, thinking about how we could use materials from manufacturing to help us, because in a number of cases, really there was a shortage of components, elastic. We started making pressurized purifying air respirators and also ventilators. And you can see an example here sitting on the shelf behind me of something I think that showcases the capability of manufacturing, where we were able to take a design that was being made at 10 a week and scale that to make 50,000 over a period of time, and run at a rate of 1 every 60 seconds, similar to how we produce our F-150s every day. So obviously, to be able to do that means that you've got to have engineering capability and prowess and bring all those things together and be able to kind of refocus, pivot, and move forward. So I think it actually showcases the talent and the creativity that our engineers have as they go about their kind of daily business. And our chairman of the board, Bill Ford, made a comment. You know, there's a lot of companies that can make a lot of simple things, and there's a lot of companies that can make a few complicated things, but there aren't very many companies that can make a lot of complicated things. And I think we've been able to demonstrate how we've been able to do that to support the crisis.
That's absolutely marvelous. I know in the Detroit region, we're proud of being the arsenal of democracy. And I think now I think of us in many ways as the arsenal of health and the arsenal of helping people. And that's just really wonderful to hear that story and hear those details. I think, you know, really thinking about that too, I think part of what I hear is how you bring those teams together, how you do that, not just in site in a particular place, but also so many of us now work from home. And, you know, what does it take to do that? How is manufacturing working virtually in these days? And what's the online capacity for that?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting. And I think this, the COVID-19 epidemic has actually kind of really brought that to the fore and kind of moved us from using those things to help support us, but actually kind of elevated them to now the way that we really do our business. And if I think back 30 years ago when I started as an engineer, and I think we had one computer between 30 of us, and, you know, we still made duplicates with a rotating machine, right? Now we're able to do everything in our engineering arsenal virtually, right? We're able to simulate the production process. We're able to collaborate globally using tools like we are today, and we're able to communicate seamlessly. And I think for us, starting actually in the pandemic, a lot of those tools and techniques we were able to use to help us get a jump start on getting that PPE in place. And in a number of cases, you know, we had teams, for example, engineering that ventilator, all working virtually. So we were able to keep those people safe. We were able to share engineering drawings. We were able to scan things from our tools. Our team, part of my team actually is in Chennai in India. They were able to support us and keep working at night while the team over here was sleeping. We had engagement from engineers over in China and Taiwan who were also helping us source pieces of equipment. And so that whole kind of infrastructure was all kind of it's all driven by people working together in a seamless way, leveraging the technology and the tools that we have available to us that are really now just part of our everyday process.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I think, you know, Jim, I'm going to turn to you and ask you to kind of give us a description. So we've talked about the virtual, the collaborative, the online, how it all can be very global. You know, I know that you happen today to be in a factory that is quickly transitioning to be the factory of the future. What does that look like? What's the workplace like? What is it like to be working in manufacturing on site today?
Well, it's super exciting, and all the activity that we have going on here at Detroit Hamtramck is exciting. I would tell you that, you know, perhaps the stigma of manufacturing and operations of old, where people may think it's dirty or dark, is certainly days gone by. First, I'll touch on the culture. I mean, what you'll find in a modern day General Motors assembly plant is a culture of inclusiveness, collaboration, teamwork, one effort, surrounded by the goals of zero injuries, the highest quality, and then obviously meeting our financial commitments. So the culture certainly comes to mind. I would say from a tech side, you know, the industry has advanced so much in the last 25 years in the areas of electric tools, assist devices for operators, exoskeletons for ergonomic, all types of vision systems, sonar, radar, high pixel camera to support operators to build quality in station and keep pace. Very well lit, extremely clean, and very standardized.
Awesome. So I think it is not at all like manufacturing in the past. I show some films that I know are showing some of the dangers of the past, some of the dark and some of the dirt. And I know personally, having been in several of Ford's facilities, GM's facilities, that is not what it looks like today. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Jeannine, Jeannine, turning to you, I think we've kind of thought about the type of work, the way it's working. As we think about the next 5 years, what's the workforce like for that? How is that workforce changing? What are the skills that manufacturers are seeking today?
Yeah, thanks. And I think the last prior comments actually feed right into that, because I would address it in a couple ways. First of all, the profile of who makes up that workforce is the first time in history we've had 5 different generations making up our workforce, a very diverse set of individuals, right, with a diverse set of backgrounds and skills and interests. So that's, I think, a unique aspect as we think about the workforce of today and projecting into our 5 years. Secondly, and Adrian touched on this, is how we do the work, right? COVID really forced a lot of things that were already in place in terms of utilizing technology for collaboration. So they kind of forced us into the space of working differently. And we've been doing some research, and we found out from manufacturers, a lot of those things are not going to change. They might, again, none of us want to be on Zoom calls 100% of the time, right? I'm pretty sure we don't plan on doing that long term. But certainly I think we've seen the opportunity to use it sometimes where we don't have to maybe get on a plane or go somewhere, be there in person. So a lot of that, how we work, will continue with some of the stuff we've experienced, and Adrian kind of touched on some of those. But lastly, kind of getting at, like you said, the skills. I think this is the most interesting part, and Jim even touched on this, all the change in the last 20, 25 years of really making manufacturing such a high-tech, high-touch industry, of which, unfortunately, different than many other industries, I think the average citizen doesn't realize how much these jobs have changed inside of manufacturing. And the skill sets, both from, I'll call it more the soft skill sets, as well as the technical skill sets. So you think of things like, we talked about digital literacy, but you look at artificial intelligence, big data, data analytics, robots. People think robots are taking over their jobs. No, there's still people have to program them, operate them, maintain them, which is a very technical job, right? So there's a lot of the technical skills, Cynthia, that are kind of evolving and certainly outpacing us really in terms of what we need technically. And a lot of existing jobs, even in the manufacturing engineering job, has evolved a lot. And then yet there's new jobs, like a lot more emphasis on data scientists and things like that. So we have all that going on, but I want to color that a little bit with those soft skills, because we've always known communication is important, right? And collaborative, creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, but in manufacturing, it's significant. And it can be you can have all those hard skills, but without those soft skills complementing it, it really doesn't get the true impact that manufacturers really need. And if you listen to the stories from Adrian and Jim right there, you heard those words, right? Creativity, problem solving. He talked about, the critical things that they had to come around with and use good communication and collaboration. So I don't want to underestimate the value in sharing those, just as equally as important as those hard skills.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I agree. Just to add to what Jeannine said, a couple of kind of experiences for me recently. Typically we bring summer interns in to work with us over the summer period. And this year, all of those summer interns worked virtually for the first time. And so I had the opportunity to interface with people that were working out of California and Florida, who were able to have a full summer internship working alongside people in the organization virtually, and really some amazing projects that they were able to deliver using their knowledge and expertise and background and bringing those in through the virtual world. So I think it's, it kind of just reinforces the opportunity that's out there for people to participate and collaborate as one team seamlessly online. So.
And if I could just jump back to what Adrian just said, because I think one of the comments we heard too from manufacturers when we were doing some of this research from COVID, as they talked about, again, if you even think about the recruitment process, they were saying, well, I can't meet maybe face-to-face, but I kind of still try to figure these things out. And again, everyone working from home, and in his example there of working in California, as people started realizing, maybe I don't need this person in my community per se. I'd like them to be here, but maybe it opens up my thinking to working differently, which opens up my pool of potential candidates to fill jobs. I mean, just a lot of things that if we look at kind of lemonade out of lemons, right? That's some of these things that I think we're seeing, but also at the same time, really utilizing technology, not just in manufacturing, but in the learning and development, in talent recruitment. So lots of change going on, Cynthia.
Excellent. I really appreciate all those various perspectives on that. And I think, Scott, I want to bring you into this conversation. I know earlier today we were talking about folks who transition from one job into a manufacturing environment. And I was thinking at the time about military folks and veterans and kind of how you come from active duty service and potentially consider a career. And you had mentioned some things to me that it seems like that's a good fit. I wondered if you could expand on that.
Yeah, again, I think, I spent my whole career in operations and manufacturing. Lear's had a long-standing relationship with, veterans organizations across the country to try to bring those people into our manufacturing plants. I think we were speaking earlier, that's a wealth of knowledge and technical skills that oftentimes goes untapped or is not as in your face as some of the other ways to recruit people. But we've been terribly successful and extremely happy with those efforts of going out in the marketplace, partnering with key organizations that are helping veterans as they transition back into the civilian world. And it's just been a huge success for us to continue to lean on that as a opportunity to bring people back into manufacturing. It's really, I think, specialized in the sense that, yes, there's some administrative in the Veterans Corps, but a lot of that is very technical, hands-on, is diverse from a geographic standpoint. So I think there's a lot of similarities to bringing people directly from some kind of, overseas and directly get them into a true manufacturing position, whether that's building a car for Ford or GM or a seat or electronics for Lear. That technical experience, that hands-on experience and technical thinking, I think is a real value that they bring to the table. And we continue to support that and want to support that because it's really a great resource.
Awesome. And I know, Adrian, I think you had mentioned too that you've seen some leadership capacities and leadership abilities coming out of veterans and former military, and wondered if you could touch on that.
Yeah, we have a lot of veterans who work both in engineering and also in operations in our facilities. And as Scott said, they bring a wealth of experience and knowledge. Going back to what Jeannine said earlier, right? The people side of it, those people skills that are very important to us. And in fact, even our vice president for manufacturing here in North America is a veteran who joined the company in operations and leveraged his skills and talents that he'd learned on the outside. So I think it's an important source of really good talent for us in the manufacturing industry.
Excellent, thank you. And Jeannine, I want to turn back to you for a minute. I think we've thought a little bit about the pathways in. I think you can tell from the folks that are on the panel today, these are highly educated folks, a lot of years in the industry. We've been talking about kind of transitioning into the industry. I think, when I talk to students about getting into manufacturing, some of the concerns I hear is, oh my gosh, it's going to take so many years of schooling. I don't know if I can do that. What are some of the pathways in?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is a challenge, right? And so when I say this is not to say that I'm discouraging four-year degree or above education. It's that I think we consider it and we look at it as there's plenty of different on and off paths, and on and off ramps, if you will, into manufacturing. I'll do it a little bit via storytelling. Had a chance at Skills USA, which is a national competition among young people in various different skilled trades. And this happened to be a machining competition. I got a chance to do focus groups with these young men and women that were pursuing machining as part of their high school education. And Cynthia, they told these stories about how they didn't feel that the traditional classroom worked for them, and they started getting discouraged, and they started feeling like education wasn't for them, and that feeling of what does this mean for me? And yet it was just that lectures and classroom settings, traditionally, if you will, and books didn't work for them. But when they got in an environment where they could use their hands, and they got to get behind a machine, and they got to do setup and troubleshooting, they talked about, and you'd see them light up, and they talked about how that connected for them, and how they then felt engaged in their education. And how the funny thing was to listen to these students talk about their buddies who, had a bunch of debt maybe, and didn't maybe have a good job, and they were already in a co-op or an internship, getting maybe their community, going to a community college and getting a certification or post-secondary degree. So I guess, Cynthia, the point is that there's many different on and off ramps into manufacturing. And I think it was Scott at his intro, but I know someone on the panel, at least one of the gentlemen, talked about how they grew up through their organization. And that's a really common thing inside of manufacturing. So this idea of having to get a 4-year degree can be, I think, a hindrance to many of those, that young example that I talked about at this focus group, where when they got connected and thought about how they could pursue education differently, and gave them insights into working with their hands, maybe than just a more traditional pathway, it connected for them. And I think that's important.
Just to dovetail off that, I thought it was great. A lot of us, or Lear, GM, Chrysler, a lot of the auto industry, we're trying to get these people into internships and other, get them into the plant. They have an opportunity to continue to get education. We have education reimbursement. We have, tutorials. All of us are desperate to keep that talent flowing through the organization, because it is a skill set, building seats, cars safely and efficiently. And we want to keep people like that. And all the automotive industry almost has a program to retain and continue to develop people. And I think that's an important part too. You don't have to show up with all the skills. Show up with skills. We'll teach you. We'll help you develop and continue to educate. And I think that's, one thing that differentiates us, whether you're a manufacturing engineer or your supervisor on the floor, that's somebody we want to retain, and that's a skill set we want to keep in the industry. Sorry, Jeannine.
Yeah, that's awesome. Fantastic. And I actually think it's a good turn point, because I really wanted to get into some of the nitty gritty stuff of the technology and the cool stuff that you guys, I know, are working with in the factories, in the industry. I've heard virtual reality, I've heard robotics dropped in today. I know there's these things called exoskeletons, the factory of the future. I know it's all out there. So I know people are constantly having to learn for that. Adrian, do you want to talk a bit about kind of your experiences with some of these things? What's your favorite new technology that you're loving to see out there?
There's so many of them, and we're really working hard to bring all those technologies and capabilities together. And as we do that, we find more and more synergy and more opportunities. And we've been able to showcase some of that recently. Some of you may have seen the news of our new F-150 BEV facility that we're launching on the Rouge site. And I know, Cynthia, you're probably very close to that. But as we do that, we're bringing a lot of technologies in all aspects of manufacturing, whether that be the way that we transport the vehicles through the facility, the way that we interface with them directly. So, as we bring the vehicle into the facility, we're actually using the vehicle itself to give us feedback on the process as we move, the way we design the system, and we're able to, for example, virtually walk through the facility before we built it. We're able to prove out from a safety standpoint the interaction of people moving through the facility, and make sure that they're going to be safe, which is our number one expectation. And then getting live quality feedback, adjusting on the fly, but also giving more information to our employees so that they're working, to Jeannine's point earlier, they're able to work at a higher level and oversee the process, manage abnormalities that happen in the system. And so all of those things, are coming together for us, right from engineering the process in a virtual way to supporting the people who are operating it with the right information they need to make the right decisions and to keep the process flowing. And I think for all of us, the products that we're talking about here are very complicated things, right? If you scroll back and and think a few decades ago, the advancement that we've made across the manufacturing industry is tremendous, and the amount of subcomponents and sub-assemblies come together is incredible. And so to be able to manage all of that, we have to leverage these tools and techniques and continue to advance. So it's very exciting time for me to be part of manufacturing and not only see how we're doing now, but also think in the next few years about where we're going to be able to get.
Jim, anything you want to tuck in on
Yeah.
that? I know you're right in the heart of it.
Absolutely. And not to sound archaic or basic, but I would tell you that one of the tools that I find great is, Facebook, for one. I mean, communicating, finding new ways to communicate with our employees, include them, get their feedback, collaborate. It's been around for years, but we're trying to tap into every single way that we can to involve our people. From a technology standpoint, as you all well know, we're in the midst of a massive reconstruction here at Detroit Hamtramck, about $2.2 billion of investment to build battery electric trucks and the fully autonomous Cruise Origin. And there isn't one piece of technology I would say that I'm attracted to. There's an attribute in that we believe in an all electric future. We believe in zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion at General Motors. And we are just scraping the surface of EV and AV technology. So tech that comes into our facilities that's lean, flexible, low switching costs, has the ability to adapt as the technology adapts, as we learn and grow in the space of AV and EV will certainly be an advantage to us, and that's what we want.
That's awesome. Thank you. I love the 000 phrasing that you all are working with. It's a fascinating set of problems to be solving and a great future to build towards. Scott, I think there was one I really wanted to ask you too about. I know that Lear really thinks a lot about safer and smarter and more comfortable. And I think, that must mean you're thinking about a customer of the future who's maybe a little different, demanding something a little different from manufacturing. And I wonder kind of how that comes together for you guys.
Yeah, again, two of our biggest customers are sitting in a room virtually with us. So, as they continue to morph and the customers at large continue to demand more technology, more comfort, more flexibility, ride sharing comes into play where a seat that used to be just mine is going to be shared with a bunch of other consumers, other customers. So I think having the ability of having a seating operation, which Lear's famous for, and then combine it with a technology division that does wire, electronics, software is the perfect mix of technologies that allow us to move forward with our customers. Because I think the seats are getting smarter. I think they're going to interface with the car more. I think that technology leap you're going to feel it as a consumer in the seat, and having that technical expertise of designing, building, manufacturing a seat, and then the software, electronics ability is just a perfect match for, I think, the strategies that our customers are going after. So I think it's it's a very fun time to be in the industry as these rapid changes happen, whether it's new customers, new technology and manufacturing, or the product that's coming off the other line. I think it's really a great time to be with Lear.
That's awesome. Thank you. And Jeannine, I want to toss it back to you before we get to the open questions here. And I think we've talked a lot about technology. We've talked about getting towards a cleaner future, a greener future, really high tech and how that's all coming together. But I know we've also talked a lot about people. And I'd really just love your perspective on, the importance for manufacturing to be investing in people in these times.
Sure, thanks. And well, I will say I might be biased about people, but we do believe that people are kind of the number one competitive differentiator for an organization. We see that in manufacturing because it is a very technology rich industry. Sometimes the people side is, and in the case of the other panelists, I know their organization as well, and they're very connected, and Scott ran through, having good employee development, talent management systems. But within manufacturing as a whole, this is an area we need to work on. And there was a study that Deloitte did about, what are the key variables that drive a country's competitiveness. And if you think about it, you could translate that to a community, a state, right? Southeast Michigan, or to a company's competitiveness. And the number one variable was access to talent. That was more than, trade, cost of materials, cost of labor. It was access to talent, and not just access to people, but talent, skills, right? And so we know that that's a key driver. And I sometimes will say we can have the same machinery, the same technology, the same materials, raw materials, but you put different people in those environments and allow those that have that greater creativity, greater skill set, innovative capability, and you're going to have a better outcome. And there's lots of studies that show organizations that link up their talent management strategies to their business strategies are those organizations that outperform from a productivity, a retention of employees, profitability. So again, yes, while biased, there is certainly some core research out there that suggests and reinforces the importance of investing both in technology, certainly not you've got to invest in the technology side, but equally making sure you're thinking through the people side to maximize that investment in technology.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to turn to the Q&A portion here. We've gotten some good ones sent in. This one's pretty specific. I think this is likely for you, Adrian, or maybe for Jim. How did you adjust your IIoT systems to adjust for new products as you launched into COVID-19? So how did you make that transition, and how did that work?
I don't think we adjusted. I think we just leveraged, right? We took the tools and the skills and, back to Jeannine's point, the talents of the people, and we turned that to a different challenge. And I think one of the things in our manufacturing industry is people are used to solving very complex problems very quickly, using the strengths of the organization. And for us, whether that was logistics challenges with getting parts from around the world, or whether it was engineering challenges in developing a new part, or whether it was a facility challenge or a safety challenge, keeping our people safe as we started to make these things, and then also making sure that what we were making was safe for the end user. All of those pieces, we used technology that we use to make our awesome cars and trucks every day, and the same techniques and tools that Ford Motor Company's been using, right from our founder and the invention of the moving assembly line. So it's just that iteration of those processes and the technology that we're talking about. We were able, for example, to 3D print parts, to scan parts, to quickly generate CAD, to share, as I said, globally around the world, to leverage skill sets of different people and to bring them all to bear. We didn't have to invent those systems because we're already using them and they're part of the fabric of what we do. We just redeployed them and refocused the team on a different mission. And I think, as I said earlier, it just really showcases the talent within manufacturing, where you're able to completely pivot and go make something entirely different. And at the end of the day, right, in all of our facilities, they're just pieces of iron or steel or aluminum or whatever. Without the people there, whether those people are, assembling a mask or putting a Lear seat in one of our wonderful new cars and trucks, right? All of those people have a critical part to play, and them all coming together using, common tools, common information, and sharing is what really sets us aside in terms of our capability and what we're able to deliver.
Yeah, and I would just add that, no significant changes specific to the question. This was really and has been a time where we've cashed in on our cultural behaviors. This has been a time where, we've spent so much time with culture at General Motors and know that my colleagues have in their facilities and their businesses as well. One team, inclusion, innovate, be bold. I mean, that's where it's, we've leveraged to overcome, solve problems, help other people solve problems, communities, customers. I would tell you that without having that foundational set of cultural behaviors in our company, it would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I agree with Jim that the culture is the foundation of everything we do. And I like to say, at Ford, this kind of reaching out and helping it's just part of the DNA, right? Back to your point, Cynthia, about the arsenal of democracy and the other things that have been done, in the past. It's part of what we do every day. So it's kind of it was a natural thing. And actually there's an outpouring of people just wanting to support and do the right thing, because it's kind of inherent in what we do, right?
And again, it's a big differentiator, I think, from a manufacturing standpoint. When, whether it's the arsenal of democracy or a pandemic, it's the auto industry, it's manufacturing, its ability to, move quickly and deliver on time. That goes on at our pace. We're used to it. We have to turn things around in minutes or hours and tack time. And I think when you go on tours, or I have for other industries, you see a pace and a level of innovation that kind of slows down, and they're comfortable in that arena. And I think just that culture is so interesting, that bringing people into manufacturing, you get a lot of opportunities, whether it's this or a problem on the line. I think we undersell how great a day work in manufacturing in the auto industry is when you're comparing it to an Apple or a Boeing or something like that. It really is a special experience.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. And I actually think that partly some of the things that have been done in the pandemic have showcased why having a really strong manufacturing industry is so important.
Yep.
I think there's many countries around the world that wish they had the prowess to be able to do some of these things. And I think they're probably reconsidering their economic strategy for the future based on what's happened in the pandemic and their ability to react to it.
Yeah, and just on a side note, Adrian, it's very interesting because from our electronic side, we were on some of the calls that yourself and GM to partner with some of these quick assembly lines and sourcing. And, we certainly partnered with Ford and GM, but we also got some calls from, outside the industry that are working on similar products, and just the pace of, we got to have this done, auto industry to not auto industry, was just truly dynamic. It was really an interesting learning experience. Trying to move through our pace and the rest of the world's pace is really, really something that you're not in the industry, you don't understand. And I think we undersell that from a manufacturing standpoint.
That's a great point, Scott. A great point. People don't understand, outside of what we do, how fast we move,
Yep.
How agile we are, and how we innovate and fail fast, you name it. But that's a great point.
I mean, you can be on a plane to England tomorrow, or Shanghai, or dealing with a problem on an F-150. And I mean, it's just so many opportunities. And I think if you want to get talent, I want to work in this industry. I certainly want to work for Lear, but we're underselling that to get people into this industry. I don't want to sit in a beanbag at Google. I want to go, solve problems or develop technology. It's pretty cool. So just my blanket speech on operations is pretty cool, and the auto industry is the place to do it.
I agree. And I think it's a fun thing to do as well, right? So there's so much opportunity to bring your talent and skills to bear and make a difference. And it can be fun, but it's also challenging, right? And I think one thing that's inherent within the manufacturing industry, we talk about scientists going and studying new things. They have a different level of pace, and they get to choose what they work on. Within manufacturing and within engineering, you have to work on the problem that's in front of you, and you have to solve it, Scott's point, quickly, because you're impacting the process and you're costing millions of dollars if you don't. And it's a challenging environment, but I think it generates a lot of camaraderie. It generates a deep culture within the organization, and it showcases the skills of the amazing, talented men and women that we have working for us and with us across the industry.
And Cynthia, if I could just add to that, because SME has a unique perspective because we spend time with the gentlemen on this call and many others like them. And as I mentioned, as a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping manufacturing advance, exactly what they're talking about is of great concern to us, right? It's like almost a national imperative to have those that aren't in our space, because those that, we're all drinking the Kool-Aid, right? We've got to help those. And that's what's great about Manufacturing Day and what you're doing, because the ability to try to capture, like, I feel fortunate I get to hear these stories and be out with organizations like those on the panel. And there are so many of them, right, that just do these cool, like you said, the word cool. And I think that, and you said, Scott, it's undersold. I mean, I think the millennials and the Gen Zs, studies show they want to make a difference. They want to have a societal impact. And yet they don't connect that to manufacturing, and in this case, automotive. But there was a story of, I was in a medical device company, and a gentleman was machining. He'd been there for a long time, quite some time. And he told me in a story, and he had tears. He said, someone came up to him, walked up to him in the plant, stopped him and said he wanted to talk to him. He wanted to thank him because the device that he machined and created was in his body and helped him walk. And that machinist didn't understand and connect as well what he did on a daily basis and his societal impact, right? Whether it was keeping our nation secure, whether it was saving lives, whether it was allowing people to get to point A to point B with the coolest technology inside their vehicle, right? And doing it, communicating. And so as Scott said, I think we undersell the cool factor, at the same time, cool factor, but solving complex issues that have this societal impact. And that's significant. And it's our grandest challenge, to be honest, I think, inside of manufacturing, because if we can do that right, and if we had done it right, or if we've done it right, we wouldn't have the problem we have with so many kids not pursuing it. So we've got to crack the code on that and figure out how we connect young people to seeing what all of us on the panel see, and as you can see, get very excited about. So I'll stop there, because I know your question was a small one, but you obviously got us on that one.
No, that was awesome. And I actually think it's bringing us right to a great close. So I really appreciate all of you. I know I've taken a lot out of this today. I've heard a lot about culture, about innovation. At the Henry Ford, we've spent a lot of time studying innovation over time and really have come up with a series, we call it Model I, about habits and action of innovators. And what I got to see today and what I got to hear from all of you was those habits and actions in progress, right live, doing it in front of us. So that was awesome. I'm just going to turn one last question to each of you. What are you most excited about? What problem are you solving today and tomorrow and the coming year that you're most excited about? Adrian, I'll start with you. What's your next big one?
I think a number of things, right? We're launching a lot of amazing products right now, from the Mustang Mach-E to the new all-electric F-150, and it's going to be great. And the new Bronco, it's going to be great to see those out on the road. And it's always a sense of pride for the manufacturing team when we translate the design into something real that's moving down the highway, and you can go touch it and feel it and drive it. So there's a lot of excitement in our team about doing that. But also, I think bringing all of these manufacturing technologies to bear, and as I said, as we bring more of them into the fold, we're able to find more synergy that enables us to go faster and make things more robust and react more quickly. And I think there's no limit to the opportunity as we advance. And as I said, I think it's just a really exciting time in the industry. It's a great opportunity to work together with some amazingly talented people, both people that have been in the organization for a long time, but also a talented pipeline of what I see our new graduates and summer interns who are all coming in with a new level of capability and excitement. And I look forward to coming to work or being virtually at work every day because of the opportunity that we have to grow in every area. And I think Jim talked about some of the elements of manufacturing earlier, right? For us, it's safety, it's quality, it's delivery, it's maintenance, right? It's people and it's the environment. And all of those things have to come together. That notion of that Jim talked about of zero, right? That's always our target, either 100% or zero and nothing in between. And our team's always constantly working to that mantra. And when you think about it, it's a very, very complicated business, right? There's a lot of elements to balance. There's a lot of technology that we're using, and there's a lot of component parts to come together. And I don't think, if Scott was to tell you how many just individual component parts made up one of his seats, I think most people, most people on this call would have no idea of the nature of the business that we do. So, yeah, it's just every day is an exciting challenge to look forward into the future.
Jim, how about you? What are you most looking forward to? What's your big problem?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you, where do I start? I'll tell you, like Adrian, even after 26 years of being with the company, there isn't a day that I don't wake up and I can't wait to get in here. And being a part of the 000 initiative, feel like we're at the center of it here at General Motors Detroit Hamtramck. The battery electric truck, the super truck, the GMC Hummer EV that we're going to start building next fall. It's so exciting to be part of, I would say, mobility in general right now. So many great problems to solve, but it's great to have those problems.
Awesome. Thank you for that perspective. And how about you, Scott?
First of all, I love the product that's coming out of our customers. So I think Adrian and Jim have hit that. A lot of what they're mentioning, we do the seats for. So that's great every day of my life at Lear, right? The launch is the product, the under the street. But I also think that turning lemons into lemonade, this COVID is really going to change manufacturing at a real accelerated pace, right? So, when you go through our plants, you look at material handling that is, got some people attached to it, a forklift, carts. Now, it's going to be AGVs because we don't want to move people into the cells to keep, any kind of safety protocols in place. We're going to use cobots, right? More. We're going to use robots. We're going to use all of this great technology, which maybe we've been a little reluctant to use in the past, but now that we have to keep certain social distances in place or mixing of employees, it's just a wealth of opportunity to bring this stuff that you've kind of been toying with into the mainstream of what your manufacturing process is every single day. And I think that as much as I love coming to work every single day, that makes it a little bit more exciting that, you get to bring some technology into things that were maybe just pie in the sky just a few months ago. So that's my excitement point.
That's awesome. And how about you, Jeannine?
Thanks. Yeah, like Jim, I think like all of us, I've loved the industry as what's kept me here for 20 years and trying to serve manufacturers and educators. Side quick story, I was thinking to myself when you asked that, my 10-year-old, I remember when she wrote, what does manufacturing mean to me? And her teacher was like, what does your mom and dad do, right? And I realized I talked about it a little bit too much at home, maybe at the dinner table. But anyways, so outside of the obvious thing about trying to get more kids inspired, right, by the field, something that interesting of what we have going on that we're excited about is all the talk about technology inside of manufacturing. We also charge ourselves with using technology in the things we do. So example, COVID, we used to do face-to-face major trade shows, trying to display technology. Obviously that's something we can't do at the moment. So we're trying to do more, event live type experiences. But in the learning space that I oversee in education and training is we're using virtual reality and augmented reality. And so we actually have some alpha, and some of the companies on this panel are helping us look at some of those alpha versions. And where that's important is helping, because there's a lot of knowledge you can gain, but there's a big gap between gaining knowledge for manufacturing and then going out, let's say in the environment and using a machine, something back to, you said, Scott, safety wise. So if you can kind of have a stair step of using virtual reality or augmented reality and learning that environment, it is a little bit safer. It's obviously less costly. If you break something, right, you can break it in a virtual world. And it's also something we think that'll help connect students, young people, in a way that they learn maybe differently and be able to showcase the technology and the learning environment in such a way that is more connective to a younger generation. So we're pretty excited about, again, continuing to evolve how we use technology in the learning and development environment to keep advancing as much as we can to support manufacturers and educators.
Fantastic. And I think that's a great place to close on. And, you know, I just want to make a huge thank you to our panelists today. I think, you know, they've shared some really great perspectives, also really gotten us energized about Manufacturing Day, about careers in manufacturing, and, you know, really frankly about the problems to be solved and the future that we all get to live into. So thank you all so much. I hope you've enjoyed this THF conversation on Manufacturing Day. You know, please stay tuned for more. We love to bring partners together and have these type of conversations. And thank you all so very much.
Great job, panel. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Be safe.
So